The Revolution on Our Table, The History of the Fork. Welcome to Objects with History by Francisco Martinez. Today we'll dive into the fascinating story of an object that revolutionized how we eat, the fork. This utensil sparked religious debates, symbolized social status, and was even considered heretical. Did you know that there was a time when using a fork was considered a sin, or that distinguished individuals had to take special classes to learn how to use them? Join me on this journey through the centuries to discover how this diabolical instrument became an indispensable part of our daily lives. Though it seems inconceivable today to eat without a fork, for most of human history, people managed perfectly fine without one. The earliest forks appeared in ancient Egypt, but don't imagine them as they are today. These were large bronze utensils with two prongs, primarily used in kitchens for serving and in religious rituals. In ancient Greece and Rome, small fork-like instruments called ligula and fascinula existed, but they resembled hooks or picks and were mainly used for seafood and snails. The Romans preferred reclining in their triclinia and eating with their fingers, considering this the most refined way to enjoy food. The true protagonist of our story emerged in Byzantium, the sophisticated Eastern Roman Empire. In the most refined medieval courts, the first recognizable table forks began to appear. These were small, two-pronged utensils made of gold or silver, often adorned with jewels for the wealthy elite. The turning point in the fork's history came in 1004 when Byzantine princess Maria Agrippina arrived in Venice to marry the Doge's son. Maria brought with her something that scandalized Venetian society: a set of golden forks. The princess refused to touch food with her hands, preferring to use her small golden fork. Local clergy were horrified. St. Peter Damian, a prominent theologian of the time, furiously condemned this unnecessary instrument. When Maria died 3 years later from an illness, Damian interpreted her death as divine punishment, declaring that God struck her vital organs with death because she defied his will by not touching food with her fingers. Nevertheless, the seed was planted. Venetian aristocracy, ever eager for exotic novelties, began discreetly adopting the fork, particularly for eating pasta, which had become popular in Italy. The true turning point came with Catherine de' Medici. When this Florentine noblewoman married the future King Henry II of France in 1533, she brought not only Italian chefs and new recipes, but also her beloved forks. The French court, the ultimate arbiter of European fashion, was captivated, but the road wasn't easy. In England, forks were mocked for decades. Thomas Coryate, an English traveller who visited Italy in 1608, was ridiculed by his compatriots when he attempted to introduce the fork to England. They called him a furcifer, bearer of the gallows, and mocked his effeminate Italian habit. The evolution of the fork's design was equally fascinating. Early two-pronged forks were impractical, food often slipped off, and users would poke their lips and tongues. Craftsmen experimented with three prongs, but it was still unstable. Finally, in the 17th century, the four-pronged design we know today emerged, revolutionizing dining. The Industrial Revolution changed everything. Factories in Sheffield, England, and Solingen, Germany, began mass-producing forks. Prices dropped dramatically, and what had once been a symbol of nobility became accessible to the middle class. But owning a fork was one thing, knowing how to use it properly was another. Etiquette schools and detailed manuals emerged, teaching people how to hold the fork, which foods to eat with it, and how to pair it with a knife. Fork etiquette became a way to distinguish the refined from the vulgar. By 1900, the fork was common on all Western tables, though the rules of etiquette remained complex. Specialized forks were developed for different foods: fish forks, dessert forks, oyster forks, salad forks. Some dining sets even included up to 12 different forks per guest. Today, the fork continues to evolve. We now have biodegradable forks, folding forks for camping, and even smart forks that can detect if we're eating too quickly. In some Asian cultures, forks are being adopted alongside traditional chopsticks, creating a fascinating cultural fusion. The next time you pick up a fork, remember that you're holding 1,000 years of history, controversy, and social evolution. An object that went from being considered a tool of the devil to an indispensable part of daily life. It tells the story of how our societies, customs, and worldview have changed. Thank you for listening to Objects with History. Don't forget to subscribe and share. Next week, we'll explore the surprising story of the knife, the fork's eternal companion. See you then. In memory of Hermina Martinez, Berta Martinez, and Matilda Martinez. Written and produced by Francisco Martinez. Narrated by Simon Bracken.